Squads rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad, the clock won't wait. Captain choice will seal your fate. Two enthusiasts breaking it down. Fantasy kings, we're taking the crown.
All right, welcome to another episode of Tinker Time, an FPL pod, the show for every fantasy Premier League manager who's already second-guessing their first draft. It's Thursday, July 24th, 2025, and whether you're wildcarding in preseason or just here to scout some differential defenders, you've come to the right place. I'm Matt, alongside Jim. We're here to help you tweak, test, and yes, tinker your way to the top of your mini-leagues. We'll break down the best value picks, fixture trends, and hidden gems, so you don't have to stare at your squad screen in despair. So let's pop the hood, crack open the spreadsheet, and get tinkering. Jim, how goes it?
Going well. Finally had some time to dig in. I put my first team together. I'm excited.
You think you've got your team locked?
I think it's about 70% there.
70%?
Maybe 80%.
Wow.
Couple guys I'd like to get in. I feel like it's usually the first one. It's like you're off by like 2 mil, and then it slowly whittles down, and then you blow it all up right before the season starts. But I'm happy with my first draft.
How do you feel about your back line?
I'm gonna be honest. That's where I saved. I invested the least amount of money.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think there's some budget picks out there. I didn't go for the big ones, but I think there's some budget ones that will be enough to get by.
Yeah, defenders are getting a lot more attention this season. We talked a little bit about it on the last pod, where clean sheets were fewer and further between, it seemed like. And I think the FPL gods are doing what they can to kind of recalibrate and rebalance and make premium defenders and kind of those mid-tier defenders a little bit more attractive. So many of you may know at this point, FPL did introduce and announce a new defensive contribution rule. So basically, there's ways that defenders and folks that are performing defensive actions can get defensive contribution points. So you're going to hear the new acronym CBIT, or clearances, blocks, interceptions, and tackles. So those are metrics that are going to be tracked by players, for players. 10 defensive contributions are going to result in 2 points for defenders. Midfielders can also, and forwards can also receive defensive contributions, but it's going to take a little bit more. They're going to need 12 defensive contributions. So any combination of blocks, tackles, interceptions, and clearances, once they total 10 of those for defenders, they'll receive 2 points. And if they receive 12 of those for midfielders and forwards, they'll get their 2 points. Also, defensive contribution points are capped at 2 points per match for all players. So it's not like a defender can go out and have 20 defensive contributions and get 4 points, or 30 and get 6. It's really just kind of that binary 0 or 2. We talked a little bit about this on the last pod. Mixed reaction across the FPL community. But what was your initial take?
Well, just before we move on, we did forget midfielders and forwards get recovery points as well. Those count in there. So that if you have a number 9 that's playing a little deeper, they do have that. Yes, they'll need 2 more contributions, but they have the extra opportunity to do so.
I think that's pretty much for, well, too bad Harry Kane's not here still.
I know.
He used to love to really drop deep and play a little defense every now and then.
No, we're not. But I was excited about this. I thought, being somebody who likes to hit the differentials, I think this is going to give you a little bit more of that cover. So you could be a little riskier with your midfielder picks or your defensive picks, and not only be relying on the assist to bail you out with the lack of a clean sheet. I think this is going to be good. It's also spreading out, again, the captaincy pick. 2 points doubled for a riskier pick. That's more than an assist from somebody who's a little more nailed and a little more owned. Again, just something to keep in mind moving forward.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan anytime FPL tries to do something to kind of shake things up. We saw it last season with the assistant manager chip not returning at this point in time. We'll see if it makes a comeback in the second half of the season, but just anything to kind of generate some buzz, generate a new audience, generate a new dynamic to the game. I'm always in favor for it. So before we get into kind of who we're actually selecting, we wanted to kind of walk through and do a little overview of kind of the different tiers of defenders. If you've played FPL before, you know that there's always going to be kind of those higher priced defenders that are seemingly a little bit more attacking. You kind of have those budget defenders that, as Jim mentioned, he's a big fan of low cost but high return differentials. And then you have those folks that are kind of middle of the pack that'll probably have, with the new defensive contribution rules, they will likely have larger benefits. We're going to walk through.
Consistent.
Yeah. So we're going to walk through some of the key players and some of their data points from last season and really what to look for here, and hopefully can help you in making some decisions on who you might want to include in your squad. So why don't we start with premium defenders?
All right, so premium, we're saying anything 6.0 and above is a premium defender. There's only a couple of teams that have them, and right off the rip, it's, I'd say, not a surprise that Arsenal with Gabriel and Saliba, and then City with Aït-Nouri and Vardiol. Those are both, I would say, nailed. But for Gabriel and Saliba, definitely nailed. Consistent returns over the last couple of years, whether be it's, chipping in some goals here and there or clean sheets. As we said, clean sheets last year were not as easy to come by. But there were instances if you were able to double up on a Arsenal defense or even triple up if you had a defender in there or the goalkeeper in there, there's a potential for a huge return there. Also, Liverpool is coming in with 4 this year. So maybe should have started off with that, but we're not professional yet.
That's crazy to me.
I was shocked that Robertson got the 6.0 nod.
I actually saw he got the vice captain ban today too.
Did he?
Officially. I don't know if that was a spoof account, but it feels like the writing's on the wall for him.
I just don't see how he could be that expensive if you can't bring in his replacement and then expect his cost to be the same. But I guess that's reflected in the percentage owned. At this point, it's still early, but he's only owned by 2.6%. And Kirkez is coming in at 14.4. With that, Virgil's also still at 6. He's been a rock in the back the last few years, and I know last week I did knock him a little, so he'd lost a step. But there was, and Matt shared it with me earlier, if you look at FPL points per start with the new contributions. So if you look at last year's stats with the new contributions, Van Dijk was still the 6th most points per FPL start, or FPL points per start.
That's pretty solid.
So maybe I was way off when I say he's lost a step. Is the 6.0 justified? I'd say it's riskier than Kirkez or Frimpong, but he has been consistent in the back, and with those clearances and everything else he's contributing, he's probably still a safe bet moving forward, although it is an expensive price tag to pay.
Yeah. I will say, I think this is the first season in quite some time we haven't seen a defender initially priced higher than 6 mil. I want to say in years past, we've seen Trent even at 7 or 7.5 to start the campaign. Robo, I think, even at 6.5 at times.
Yeah.
So I think we're definitely seeing the pricing reflect the balancing with the new CBIT rules, where now you're seeing some of those, less likely to be selected midfielders and defenders get actually a slight uptick in price. And some of those premium defenders actually come in a touch lower. It feels just like FPL trying to balance things out. That being said, I personally feel out of the premium defenders, I think you probably want to maybe take 1 or 2. I think if you take none of them, I think you're leaving yourself a little bit exposed. Looking at Guardiola, looking at Van Dijk, I mean, these are big time scorers. Even Saliba, Cucurella came on towards the end of the campaign as well, once he kind of nailed himself in that squad. But you said it. I mean, Arsenal's defense has been the best in the league for at least the last 2 seasons. Gabriel and Saliba's had a few rumors heading to Madrid, but I don't think that's going to happen during this season. So I think you can feel pretty comfortable about him being there for the long haul. Gabriel and Saliba on set pieces, on corners, they're going to get way up there. They're consistently leading the league in goals from center backs. So, they maybe are not so traditional, your defenders or your wing backs that really get high up the pitch, but they make their presence known. In addition, them being center backs, they're going to benefit from those defensive contributions.
True.
So between the two, which one I would select? I think Saliba is probably a little bit more nailed just based on his minutes from last season, but Gabriel with the higher percentage selected at this point. So we'll see how that plays out. As far as Liverpool defenders go, I'm with you. I mean, they've got 3 wing backs to play 2 positions. So either they're going to rotate and try to keep folks fresh. We know Liverpool's going to have a lot of competitions. They're going to have a lot of a lot of games in Europe. Is that something that Slot tries to do just to keep guys fresh? Robo's another year older. Van Dijk's another year older, even though he's kind of in the center back. But he also is positioned to benefit, like you mentioned, from those CBIT points. So we'll see. Guardiola, we mentioned this a little bit on the last pod. He kind of jumped around a little bit. He was either very attacking, and sometimes it almost seemed like he was playing right on the left wing. But we've also seen him drop back in as a center back in a back three. So I'm very interested to see. He's kind of that Swiss Army knife for Pep.
He's one of those that I would be hesitant to bring him in because of that rotation, but then he'll get the minutes and score and make you feel like an idiot.
I will say, I think Ait Nouri, so for folks who played last year, Ait Nouri was priced at 4.5 to begin the campaign. That's a huge bump up to 6 mil.
Yeah, but look who he's playing with. I mean, the team change alone is enough to bump up probably a mil.
Seemingly.
Yeah.
I mean, he was good for Wolves. Is he going to be great for City? We've seen players come into City, their creativity kind of diminish. Take Jack Grealish, for example. I know he's not a defender, but, Pep is all about his system, and he's going to figure out how to plug you into the system. And if that's at the sacrifice of some of, the personal stats or some of those stats we care about for FPL, Pep's not afraid to kind of tamp those down. So we'll see. But right now, I think Ait Nouri is way overpriced.
Yeah, I don't know about way. I don't know how he's on the same as Martial.
That's fair. Yes,
Yeah.
I think if I were to say it differently, I would take Guardiola over Ait Nouri today. And if I had another 6 mil to spend on a defender, I would probably go Gabriel or Saliba.
The last thing to mention about City, though, they were missing Rodrigo last year. So
That is also
now that
true.
he's back, how much better are they going to be defensively?
Yeah. And as far as fixtures go, Arsenal, they've got, out of their first 5, they play Liverpool and City. They do have that fixture against Leeds. City have Wolves, Brighton, United in 3 of their first 5. Burnley, if you go out to week 6.
And Tottenham, who always plays City tough.
That's true. I mean, fixture-wise, I think you could maybe give the nod to City, but then taking a look at Liverpool, they've got Newcastle and Arsenal, so kind of a tough stretch in weeks 2 and 3. All that with Burnley, Everton, Palace in weeks 4, 5, and 6. So if you can kind of weather that storm of those first 2 game weeks, and let me also say, fixtures aren't everything, right? The good teams are still going to find a way to, get returns on the defensive end. But if you're just purely going off of fixtures, I think City gets the nod here.
They do. The only one that, and I guess we haven't touched on him, Cucurella over at Chelsea. They have a nice run to start the season, and Cucurella is priced at 6, and if we use that as a jumping point down to the midpoint, Reece James at 5.5. I think those two are really also great options to start the season. Maybe a little less owned, maybe not as flashy or not as guaranteed of returns as we've seen from City and Arsenal last year or in years prior. But those two do have a history of contributing, and if Chelsea could string together some consistent starts and some consistent play between the players, I think those two at a cheaper price or less ownership really could do some damage.
Yeah. So moving on to those mid-price defenders, like you mentioned, that 5.5 range, we really do see a lot of defenders falling into this range. Both, folks that have kind of been around that 5 mil traditionally that are maybe getting bumped up to the 5.5, or some of those folks that were kind of on the edge that may be worthy of a 6 mil price from results from last season. I'm thinking of some of the Forest defenders, Milankovic, Murillo, Pedro Porro, things like that. There's a lot of folks to select in the 5.5 range. Now, that being said, some very interesting ones, and I think, again, you're seeing that reflection of the CBIT points coming into play. If you've been keeping an eye on FPL Twitter at all for the last couple of weeks since they announced the CBIT points, one name that jumps out that is absolutely going to benefit from this new point system is James Tarkowski from Everton, center back. He actually, I think, one match had 18 CBIT versus Man City. So he only gets the 2 points for that. But it just gives you an idea of what this guy is doing when he's out on the pitch. Everton might not have the record or the table position to warrant a selection week in and week out. But again, this is, I think, a really awesome job by FPL to take a player who, it's a household name, right? Who really has no business being in anyone's squad other than maybe a clean sheet against a bottom of the table team. But even that, you're dependent on the people around you, your keeper. It's a risky play.
And that's a good point. That maybe that's going to be a framework for this year. So Everton was in 18th place for the first half of the season, basically.
They were in a relegation battle.
For the second half of the season, when they really buckled down and, got a goal, then played scrappy and got ahead. Is that going to be the formula for CBIT points? And maybe that's the profile of player that we target later in the season.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It'll be interesting for sure. Just kind of going through some of the top teams here. So you do see quite a few Arsenal defenders: Calafiori, Timber, Kiwior, Lewis Skelly, Ben White. All of them in kind of that 5.5 range. Arteta's going to have some options this year. I think it'll be interesting. We saw how injuries kind of depleted his options last year. You saw Lewis Skelly step in. A lot of buzz generated throughout Europe with some of his performances in some of the European competitions. Ben White just couldn't stay healthy last year. Timber was their big signing going into last season. He kind of made his way into the first team.
And California as well, right? But
yes.
He was injured for...
Yes, yeah. Injuries got him too.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of question marks, I think, here.
Yeah.
What will
enough to stay
Arteta
away.
do?
Enough to stay away for 5.5.
Historically, I think Ben White, if I were to choose one player here, it would probably be Ben White, just purely based off of pedigree. He's done it. He's been a big returner in the past. But for me, if you can scrap that extra $500,000 and find your way to Gabriel or Saliba, it's well worth it, in my opinion.
And Lewis Skelly's the highest owned of all those 5.5s.
More power to him.
Yeah. Just seems like a risk at this point.
Seems risky.
Those Arsenal fans are loyal, I guess.
Yeah. One name that jumps out for me is Munoz over at Palace. So I can personally say I loved Munoz last year, and at times I also hated him. There were times, he had a few reckless yellow cards here or there that almost cost me some mini league cups. But that being said, 5.5, he's super attacking. He's going to get up the field. He's going to be putting those balls into the box. The question, though, stands, right? Palace's defense. A clean sheet is probably not something that they're going to see too often. Is Munoz really going to give you those CBIT points?
Yeah, and even on top of that, if Eze and Mateta don't stay, that really limits his attacking targets.
Right. Yeah, based on some of their, based on the chart that we have here with FPL points per start, Munoz did rank 13th out of qualified players. So, kind of not that top 10 that you'd want to see in that 5.5, but kind of just right on the edge. It'll be an interesting one. If I had to choose between Munoz, who probably isn't going to be really, making a huge defensive impact, you've got him in there more so for the attacking potential, or a Tarkowski, who we know he's nailed. We know he's going to play 90. We know that he's going to get in there and be a menace in the box.
Solid keeper behind him.
I might lean Tarkowski.
I could see that.
I'm honestly shocked that he's only selected by 4.9%. He's got a ton of buzz around him right now.
It might be because I think Mikolenko on Everton is 5.
We'll get there.
So it might just be competing against his own team.
Yeah, but that's true. Moving on to City, they've got 6 defenders that are in that 5.5 range.
Imagine having 6 defenders from plus 2 that are at 6 million.
Maybe foul play there, but nonetheless.
No, City?
Yeah, I know. It's
they wouldn't do such a thing.
They need more lawsuits. They do.
Any press is good press.
Any press is good press. Very true. But having said that, too much rotation risk for me.
Let me ask you this. Mateus Nunes, with Walker gone, does he go in on the right?
So Nunes is an interesting one because he was actually one of those players that was reclassified.
Yeah.
He was a mid who's now a defender. So does that mean that he is misclassified, or does that mean that he really is going to be less of an attacking threat?
That's why I asked you. I don't know.
Time will tell.
One to keep an eye on.
Yeah. One to keep an eye on for sure. Another year kind of entrenched in Pep's system. We've seen players sometimes kind of take that leap in year 2. Mm-hmm. Is this year 2 or year 3 for Nunes?
2, right?
I think
2.5?
2 or 3. Close enough.
Did he come in January?
We'll call 2.5 for sure.
Yeah.
Just to cut it. But that being said, I mentioned Ruben, Stones. A couple years ago, they were the Gabriel and Saliba of the league. They were young, excellent defenders in the box, Injuries have killed them. If that is your route into City's defense, I don't hate it, but I would want to see some consistent minutes from them. One of them.
Well, Kanji's over Stones, right? Did you say Stones?
I said Stones.
Kanji's nailed above Stones for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I loved the partnership Ruben had with Stones. Kanji kind of came in, I felt like, as depth, but he's made his presence known.
That's a difficult thing. They're all the same price, so you can't even go
hard
for
to
one
justify.
and justify a lower price when you're going to get bit by rotation and not even save money.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Forest are very interesting to me. So we talked a little bit last. How did Forest? Which team is Forest? Are they the team that for the first 30 game weeks were top 4 team, or are they the team over the last 6 that kind of scuffled, lost some games that they should have probably won, and now their position in Europe kind of reflects that? Milankovic and Murillo, again, they are number 2 and number 3 that are poised to benefit the most from the defensive contributions. I, for one, had Milankovic in my squad last season. You can see 145 points last year. Very solid. Seen Nuno, his teams be a little bit more defensive in nature. So it really wouldn't surprise me if Milankovic and Murillo were in my squad week 1. Just taking a look also at Forest's fixtures. Brentford, Palace, West Ham to start. Arsenal week 4, followed by Burnley and Sunderland 5 and 6. You might not see a better 6-week run of fixtures.
That is
Forest to start.
That is good, yeah. I was getting ready to be hesitant about Milankovic, but that's a hell of a run.
Brentford we talked about last week too, right? Like, where are they going to get their returns from?
I'm staying away from them.
I'm staying away from that. Well, unless I'm playing them, then I'm all about them.
Yeah.
Palace, they're probably going to peak at 9th, maybe 10th in the table on a good season. West Ham, I don't believe in them at all.
No. Yeah, it's a good run.
It's a really good run.
So here's my question for Milankovic, though. He scored 5 goals and had 3 assists. Is that worth 5.5 on a team that we're not sold on? I feel like he's a good example of he ended the season really well, and a lot of people brought him in because he was so cheap. But are we only remembering the last run of games where he was hot and we're overvaluing him?
Well, that's a fair question. I have questions about Forest's ability to repeat as well.
Yeah.
We've seen Nuno have success when he was at Wolves. He had a very brief stint at Spurs, which we probably will just pretend like I didn't even mention that. Mm-hmm. But one thing about Nuno is his defense has always been solid. So, to your point though, for 5.5, if I could choose Milankovic or, let's say, Tarkowski, because that's the popular pick, I might go Tarkowski right now.
Probably go Tarkowski.
But the flip side of that is, the argument that you made about Everton, they've got Pickford in goal. Matt Sells was, I think, a top 2 goalkeeper last year as well. So
that's true.
Let's not sleep on him. If I had to choose between Milankovic or Murillo, I'd probably go Milankovic. Murillo is kind of your more traditional center back. He kind of honestly reminds me of like Wes Morgan back on like Leicester. I don't know, something about
Johnny Evans.
Yes. Now with United, I think he's like a special assistant or something like that. I really found his home. But anyway, I think if I had to choose between the two, I would probably go Milankovic. I don't think I would choose both. Spoiler, I might be looking to bring in Sells as my keeper. So I might still be getting that double Forest one way or another. That opening run of fixtures is too good to ignore.
He might be one you bring in, keep him for the first 5 or 6 games. If he doesn't return, then and you can move on. You could easily bring in anybody else. But the run of fixtures and how he ended last season, I guess, is enough to keep him in consideration.
He mentioned Mikolenko. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Well, do we want to include 5 mil in this category?
I would say 4 to 5 is budget.
4 to 5 is budget. Okay, so let's hold off on there. The last player, Pedro Porro. I just got that beautiful Spurs kit.
Excellent.
Champions League patch in black with Porro's name on the back. I almost feel an obligation to bring him in. He is as nailed as a Spurs defender can be.
Yep.
Very healthy last season. Really no injury concern. He's a menace on that right flank. He'll get up there. He's not afraid to put himself right in that box and take a rip if he has to. It'd be interesting, though, with some of the will he be on free kicks? Will he be on crosses this season? We'll see how Frank kind of has them play that out.
Yeah, especially if Sons leaves. There's the rumors of him going to LA. Does that open up corners? I know Madison gets in there too, but
is Madison going to even start?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think Porro's a solid
Porro should
pick.
be on corners. I think he's one of the highest expected points. When all players are equal, right? We try to look at fixtures. Spurs
Spurs have a good run.
they have a really good run. So Burnley week 1, City in week 2, which, as you mentioned, they always play City tough. Followed by Bournemouth, West Ham, and Wolves, Leeds. I mean, you could almost argue that they have an easier run, or I shouldn't say easier, but a more attractive run than Forest do through the first 7 game weeks. The question will be, same players, different system. Can Frank get these guys to play defense?
Yeah, but that's why I would stay away from Van de Ven. I would stay away from Romero. I think Porro's still a safe pick, as well as Udogie.
Spoiler, I've got Porro in my squad today.
I knew you would.
Like I said, I have his jersey. I feel like I kind of have to, but
The only thing I'm considering, Spurs don't really have a backup to Porro at the moment, and they're going to need somebody to play Champions League. So how is it going to affect him playing both 90 minutes each?
Spurs are
It's not something we have to worry about at the moment.
yeah.
Come later in the season.
I know Ange got into a little bit of a rotation, trying to keep folks fresh with Destiny and Spence.
Yep, and that worked out.
And it worked out. They were absolutely saving Porro for Europa, which we all agreed with at the time. But new year, new manager, new competition. There's I wouldn't say expectations of winning Champions League, but I'd like to think that we don't just kind of bow out gracefully. It'd be nice to make a splash.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to... Levy's not going to let them deprioritize the league as well.
Yeah.
We can't finish in 17th again.
Absolutely not. That would be let's not.
I think he's I think he's a very safe pick with a really favorable fixture run to start the season.
Anything else on mid-price defenders?
No, apart from now, I'm reconsidering my 5.5 choice.
Well, luckily for you, you've got some time.
Yeah, and a few more pods before then.
Hopefully. All right, let's switch gears here. Let's move on to our budget options. So you mentioned we're talking folks that are between 4 and 5 mil in price. What do you think? Who stands out?
So the first one I brought in was the Kuiper over at Brighton. They're a team that they always seem to play well. They have wingbacks at attack. I think Estupiñán I saw is gone as of today, right?
Yes, he's off to AC Milan.
So the Kuiper coming in, he's 10% owned, so I'm not alone in thinking he's a good pick to cover for Brighton. And he was the first one nailed. It's that price point where you just don't want to pick somebody who loses value early. You want somebody who is flat or goes up and gives you that buffer to make transfers later in the season.
Yeah, I forget who it was last year. There was a very popular Brighton defender off the rip. I want to say he was priced at 4 mil. He was supposed to be nailed. The name I'm totally blanking on right now, but that's exactly what happened. Was he was very high selected, blanked for the first 2 or 3 game weeks. I don't even think he ended up getting minutes, even though he was expected to be in the first team. And then lo and behold, now he's down to 3.9, 3.8. That's really hard to bounce back when you're only week 2.
And that's what forces you into that big blow up over the international break. Is what you see your players losing value, and you're afraid you're not going to be able to get in who you want.
Yeah.
So it forces you to make that trade early. So I'd say that's my biggest takeaway for the budget defenders is think about who is guaranteed to start and who is the lowest risk to be losing your money.
Yeah. I think one player who's going to be super popular, Anthony Robinson.
Yeah.
Very attacking last season.
He was joint top assist, right?
I want to say he had
Porro
13 assists. He was up there.
These all could be wrong facts.
He actually hit a hole-in-one today.
I did see that. Yeah, good for him.
Not only is he a professional athlete, he is much better at golf than both of us. But that's not saying much.
Sammy Sosa on Crystal Palace? I don't know about that.
He bleached his skin, Sammy Sosa. Look at a picture of him today. Look at a picture of him from 10 years ago. Not the same skin tone. But you almost feel bad for him. But you don't, because these are pro athletes. They're doing fine. Anyway, back to kind of some of the 5
good transition there.
I want to say a couple names that kind of stand out to me. Nathan Collins, I had him in my squad last year at times. 5 mil, 127 points, only 1.3% selected thus far and globally across the game. He's one of those guys. He's nailed. He's going to play.
What do we say about Brentford, though? What do we say?
I know. I know.
Don't talk yourself into it.
I'm going to take a look at their fixtures right now just so they're not awful. Forest,
Villa, Sunderland, Chelsea, Fulham, United, and City. It's not the best.
It's not the best. And I think that's kind of to your point. Like that's what it comes down to, right? If you're going to select someone week 1 for 5 mil, are you going to hold on? Like, are you selecting him for that Sunderland fixture in week 3?
No.
No.
Not a
No.
5.0 defender.
At that point, I would honestly rather go double Spurs. I'd rather go get Romero or bring in Van de Ven, I think, because at 4.5. So I think money can be better spent. You mentioned Mikolenko. Again, that Everton defense feels like they're going to be pesky back there.
Yeah. And I think budget-wise, I think Mikolenko's personally better than Tarkowski.
Yeah. Only 4.9% selected right now, so maybe some folks listen to this pod and those numbers go up a little bit, but we'll see how things play out.
The Tinker Time bump.
The Tinker
You
Time
think by
bump.
next week it'll be 5-1.
Yeah. I'm not touching United with a 10-foot pole.
Interesting.
Or
Okay.
meters. They do meters over there, right?
Because I do have United in my squad at the moment.
Are you feeling okay?
I do. And you mentioned him last week. He plays out of position.
That son of a bitch.
Harry Maguire.
Oh, man.
At 4.5, a nailed United starter. That's sure he's not going to be.
As long as you can sleep with yourself at night, that's...
Here's my thinking. I realistically don't think they're going to be as bad as they have been. And at 4.5, what do you have to lose?
So here's that last point you made, I think is valid. I will say to give them some flowers, like they did make Europa League final, right? Like you can't be...
How'd they do in that?
They lost. They lost.
But they got there.
They got there. You know, there's something to be said about making a final. I mean, Spurs were just... We haven't even made a final. We just happened to win it this time. But, you know, United have... Let me put it this way. Harry's won some trophies. He knows what it takes to win a trophy at United and what that feeling is like. So, you know, I'm never going to entirely rule United out. But right now, if I've got 5 mil or even 4.5, I'm spending it elsewhere, personally.
All right.
But we'll see.
We'll see.
You talked about Dan Burn, I think, last
Dan Burn,
episode.
always a fan of Dan. Along with Livramento. The two of them are my go-to for Newcastle. I don't know. It seems like a lot of drama coming out of Newcastle, or at least rumors, with Isak and...
Isak today kind of forcing his way over to Liverpool. Hopefully that all gets settled by the time we have our episode on forwards, because...
it just doesn't make sense. So maybe he's unhappy for other reasons. You don't know what that does to the squad. But Burn or Livramento would be my two picks for Newcastle.
Yeah.
I don't have either at the moment. I really wanted Burn, but I couldn't get the extra $500,000 in there.
Yeah. Interesting. Like I said, kind of in the last step, Trippier was definitely fighting some injuries last campaign. When he's in there and nailed, you know, he's going to be on free kicks. He's going to be on corners. But the question is, will there be anybody in the box now to actually kind of finish those opportunities? I saw they were tied to, and I'm probably butchering this, Eshko over at Leipzig, that if Isak does go, another guy that was linked to Arsenal, but, you know, the 29-year-old with the dad who cries finally made his way over to North London. Now Eshko's sitting over at Leipzig with nowhere to go. I saw him actually, they lowered his asking price from £100 million to 70. So
I don't see them selling Isak. They made Champions League. That's been their goal. They want to continue to become more regular. Why would they sell the striker?
But do you want someone in your squad, in your dressing room, that doesn't want to be there, who's voiced that? Culture is
If the alternative is nobody,
well,
yeah, I would.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, do they give Callum Wilson a call right back and say, hey,
I can't believe
we got a spot for you here? It'll
Yeah.
be interesting. Or do you see Newcastle become a little bit more defensive? You got, you know, I'm messing this right now.
No,
but
say it.
Bruno Guimaraes, I don't know. He's Brazilian, I think. But you've got Anthony Gordon.
And your extended cousin there.
Sandro Tonali.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's my paisan.
Yeah.
You know, can Anthony Gordon slide up top? We saw he played it a little bit when he was at Everton.
He did
back
play a
in the
little
day.
bit up top.
I did see some rumors today that Arsenal might be, you know, making a call on Anthony Gordon.
Really?
Yeah.
Which is interesting because they just got Noni.
They just got Noni.
He plays on the left and he plays up top, and they're getting Gurkis. We got to learn how to say
We got to
his
learn
name.
how to say it. Maybe we'll chat
Interesting.
GPT it at the end of the episode. I don't know. 5 mil is kind of that tough spot, to be very honest, because I think 5 mil is that tough spot because they're not the bottom of the barrel. They're just good enough where like they probably warrant the 5 mil price tag, but you got to really be sure, because if you can justify a 4.5 mil defender over the 5, like save that.
That's the thing. Your expectations are, it seems like, much higher, even though should they really be? But at this point of the season, $500,000 is a lot.
And that brings us to the 4.5 mil defenders.
Probably go through these a little quicker.
Mentioned Kuiper. Coupier, I'm probably saying that wrong. I actually think I saw he's on Pens right now, because
Is he really?
everyone's left. Brian's got some weird stuff going on right now. They've sold everyone. The only one who's left is Matoma.
And Welbeck. But they recruit so well. That's why
They do.
I'm not concerned that they're gonna fall off and be relegation material. I think they're gonna be fine.
Van Heck should be nailed. He is someone I do believe that should benefit from some of the CBET points. But we mentioned it last episode. Brighton's defense is hit or miss. They could win a game 3-0. They could also let in 4 goals. Brighton are tough. Fixtures aren't great, but kind of similar to City, they've got a lot of defenders priced at that 4.5 points. So if you can figure out which defenders are going to play,
There's a lot of them. What is that, 10?
I mean, I think right now you're probably looking at Lewis Dunk and Van Heck as the 2, maybe Veltman if they go
Maybe
back
Veltman.
3. But other than that, really hard to tell. We talked about Kyle Walker, former Spur, former City player. Now at Burnley, looking to kind of revive his career. Had some issues with his baby mama, I heard, but that's
guy.
all
Poor guy.
speculation. Yeah.
Or poor woman. Let's not take a side.
That's so true. We are pro equality here. Walker at 4.5 could be interesting.
He could be interesting.
Gotta
If
be
he
nailed.
starts.
You don't think he would start?
It's hard to tell. I don't know.
Burnley's defense was very good last year in the championship.
So I brought him in my team, and I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about him, apart from he was their best defender last year, is what I've read. Maxime Esteve. He's 4.0. Presumably a nailed starter. That's really kind of what I'm targeting in the back, to save money to invest elsewhere.
Yeah. Those newly promoted clubs are always tough, right? Like you're going to get those players that are nailed. CBIT in theory should help, but it's only 2 points. So if they're getting 90 minutes and, we assume they're not conceding 4 goals or 3 goals, like they're going to get their 2 points anyway. Over the long haul of, 38 game weeks, 2 points can add up every game week if they're having that kind of impact on the game. For a single heads up game week, if you're in some sort of match play, not sure if it's worth it. Especially when you look at someone like Mark Gahey, who's over at Palace. He's been an FPL gem for a few seasons now. I think at 4.5, probably priced correctly. I think he, in the past, was a little bit higher. I think he might have came in at 5 mil in the past. But we haven't seen Palace's defense really reflect or warrant kind of that higher price tag. So I think 4.5 is good.
Apart from Munoz.
Yes. Are they, just not to spoil the goalkeeper app, is Dean Henderson going to be their keeper? Is he still there?
I don't know.
You have to tune in and find out. But kind of going through, Fulham, we mentioned Robinson kind of at that 5 mil. So if you can reach for it, I would go for it. Struik's an interesting one. So if you remember from a few years back, Leeds was in the league.
Him.
He's kind of, I think, one of the few holdovers that's still with the club. I actually believe, is on Pens. Now, I think they did sign someone, I don't have the name in front of me, who has a history of converting pens, but I believe Struik has taken a few for them last season when they were in the championship. That would be electric. 4.5
4.5 defender on Pens.
Defender, nailed. He's going to get in the box. He's going to get those
That's
CBIT
good
points.
to know.
Only 0.4% selected now.
He plays on the left? I'm trying to remember.
Sure. I'm not sure.
Here. Talk amongst yourselves.
You mentioned Harry Maguire. Luke Shaw would be somebody who I think he's just kind of fallen out of favor. Dallo being at 4.5 is kind of surprising just for how attacking he is, but that's probably just more reflective of the fact that he's not really a defender. He's kind of just playing in a wing-back role, and United's defense isn't going to be great. So if he's not getting his attacking returns, 4.5 seems right, but could be some value there too.
And I just can't expect that they're as bad as they were. But that's just a feeling.
Spurs kind of have that same logjam at that 4.5 mil that City has at the 5. Or is it 5.5? I think it was 5.5.
5.5, yeah. Look at the difference.
Oh,
Danso, Davies, Jurgensen, Ben Udogie, and Van de Ven.
So I think what it really comes down to is a couple things. One, Spurs possibly have worse health than they did last season. You can almost count on Van de Ven blowing out his hamstring twice throughout a season. He's too fast. He's the fastest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I love it.
I love
it so much. I
his
love
size, his fire.
speed. The goal line clearance in the final.
What a moment.
That should have been awarded 2 points on its own.
Yeah, that was incredible. What a moment. Bringing it back, we mentioned Spence. We mentioned Udogie out there. Are they going to be in rotation? That in and of itself kind of steers me away, at least for now. We've seen Udogie kind of have that position in the past. So if he wants to, grab it and run with it, that's great. But I think right now Frank's probably going to go back 3.
Presumably, yeah.
So does that mean?
But I wonder how much of that is because they don't have a defensive midfielder that apart from Benton Kerr,
Who isn't really a
and
defensive midfielder.
and Basuma, who's probably on the way out.
If you believe in Archie Gray,
Well,
I don't know.
FPL gods do not believe in Archie
No,
Gray. I
they
think
do
he was
not.
4, wasn't he?
Yeah, deservedly so. He doesn't really have a position. But, I think if you're looking at one of these defenders, you take Van de Ven.
Yeah.
And if he gets injured, you just kind of deal with it.
Yeah. I think it's a safe, guaranteed start. They'll
Yeah.
get clean sheets.
Yeah.
It won't be a lot, but for 4.5, consistent.
West Ham, there's one player that jumps out, 80, Herman Bissaka. Selected by almost 30% of managers right now. 118 points last season.
But quite a drop off previous years, right? I think the expectations last year for him were much
I
higher.
believe when United bought him from Palace, I believe he was at. He really fit that mold of kind of that wing back who was going to get up there, very attacking, lockdown defender as well. It kind of never panned out. I mean, United doesn't surprise me that they missed on a transfer. But he's kind of rediscovered some form since he's joined West Ham. Again, do I see West Ham as kind of this defensive stalwart where, they're going to get clean sheets? No. Do I see him as someone who can pepper balls into the box for Jared Bowen? Absolutely. So we'll see.
My thing is it's just Bowen that's really
Bowen.
there now.
Yeah.
That's my concern. Saka last year had 2 goals in 38 games. In his 190 games at United, how many goals do you think he had?
2.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. I just
Look at you.
for those listening who are just pod only, I don't have this number in front of me. That was a total guess. So definitely some decisions to be made in that 4.5 realm. I think you get down to the 4 mil. You mentioned Esteve over at Burnley, 7.3% selected. He might just be that guy that you bury on your bench. You don't really look for anything output wise, but if it came down to it, you'd get the 2 points or the 4 points. One name that did jump out, Axel Tuanzebe, who used to, I believe, be on United as well. He's kind of jumped around. I think he played with Ipswich last season. Just a name who's been in the Prem. There's a lot of value in just experience as well. But again, is Burnley's defense going to come into the league and week 1, Burnley's playing Spurs.
Yeah.
Is Burnley going to stop Spurs? Maybe Sunderland week 2.
I think Burnley is.
But
they're just going to be a tough watch, like Ipswich last year.
Yeah.
They'll have the occasional game and an occasional flash, but not for the defenders.
is there anyone else from the 4 mil price point that is kind of catching your eye?
There is one more. Alex Moreno.
I think it's just Moreno.
Moreno?
There's no tilde, right?
Well,
That's okay.
there's a little tilde over the A in Alex, so I think you could use some
11.5%.
Yeah.
That's a big.
highly owned.
So that's interesting. So Villa's back line right now would be Konza, Mings, Matty Cash, and Luca Dean, no?
So Dean was not nailed last year, and Moreno was on.
I thought that was a different Moreno.
No, he was on loan last year.
Interesting.
He was on Villa bought him 2 years ago. Then he went to Forest last year, played 19 games. Now he's back. I have to imagine he's at least in the mix for 4. And I don't know, maybe he's not a great pick, but worth taking a shot on. Because at 4, there's very few that are going to be nailed 90-minute starters.
Yeah.
So he's in my squad at the moment. I'm not wed to him, but could be a good pickup.
Could be. I mean, you have been known to find some of those hidden gems, those differentials that just come out of absolutely nowhere to return.
Plus, Villa are going to need the rotation playing in Europe.
That's true.
So at some point, there will be minutes. Maybe I'll get it wrong, and he's going to be playing in Europe. And, He'll be first on my bench and get 0 points, and then I'll just get somebody else to sub in. But for 4-0, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
So we've kind of walked through some of those premium options. We walked through those kind of mid-priced choices, and we talked through some hidden gems and differentials. I mean, let's just take a minute in the spirit of tinkering, right? Like maybe you could watch me tinker for a minute, and I could watch you tinker.
Let's do it.
Maybe you could tinker my team for me. I don't know.
So you did pull up your team right here.
So we're just going to talk defenders for now, not to spoil any of the future reps. I mentioned I've got Guardiola and Porro in there. I went with Mikolenko. I really fought on this one.
You were talking up Tarkowski all day.
I
All
know,
night you were talking.
I was, and I think that at the end of the day, yes, Tarkowski's going to have the impact, but I think having any exposure to Everton's defense is better than having no exposure. Wan-Bissaka, frankly, at 4.5 is a 1 week punt. I love that fixture against Sunderland. I mean, West Ham's bad, but can't get a clean sheet against Sunderland bad?
They should. They really should.
They should. And this season, as far as transfers go, for me, it kind of just feels like if I don't get it right 1 week, if I don't get it right 2 weeks in a row, like I could just blow it up. There's so many chances to fix your squad.
True.
2 free hits, 2 wild cards. I mean, obviously the opening draft. You got your AFCON, and you can still roll 5.
When is AFCON? January?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think anybody knows, to be honest.
Maybe
But,
it hasn't been scheduled yet.
Yeah.
It's safe to assume.
Sometime in this season.
Yeah.
But I will say one name that, and I just must have made a mistake when I clicked it. I chose our old friend, Joe Roden.
He just got transferred today.
To where?
Leeds. You had him
Oh, no, I had him when he was at Leeds. He played there last season, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I might be mistaken.
Maybe they just loaned him back again.
That might be what it
That
was.
might be it.
Or like there was an obligation to buy or something like that. He wasn't getting minutes at Spurs.
No.
He did, I think, a couple games, and it was
bad.
painful. The Welsh Warrior, him and Ben Davies. But
If he starts, that's...
Well, and that was kind of where my thought was, again, like that prime experience. You know, he's a former Spurs player. If he can't start at Leeds, I mean, what are we doing? That's probably why we got rid of him. But I'd probably make that switch to, I want to say, let me see if I can do it right here on the fly. If I can actually go, because I think I don't have anything in the bank, so that's tough. Because I'd love to get,
It says you have 4 in the bank.
well, yeah. So I'd love to get Streak in.
4.5. That's where it's so tough. You'd have to drop cells down. That's the easiest way.
Did it bring him in? Or the plus. So I have to lose 5 somewhere else. So I could go I hate getting rid of Wan-Bissaka against Sunderland. I might be able. I forgot Lucas Paqueta's got the whole game like thing going on. I thought he was on pens, so I was like, oh, it's 6 mil.
I was
on
shocked.
Pens.
I brought Paqueta in last year for pens for that
Yeah.
exact reason. Bowen took everyone.
So I'm probably, but the 5.5 mids are kind of thin. I don't
They're
love
tough.
it. I mean, here's your dilemma, right? Is it possible to have Holland, Salah, and 2 premium defenders?
I didn't even try. Holland and Salah is tough on its own. 2 premium defenders on top of it is nearly impossible.
The problem is, if I were to try to save some funds, I'd probably get rid of Guardiola. Because let's say I take that 6 to a 4.5. Now I've got 1.5 mil to kind of spread out. I've already got a forward at 4.5 buried. So now I'm looking to maybe bring Jack Harrison up to a 6 and then maybe Paqueta up to a 7.
I think you got a couple. If we're just tinkering, no judgment tinkering,
No judgment.
I think Kudus and Paqueta are wild picks to start the season. Are you kidding me?
I love the Spurs fixture run. To be fair,
Kudus might not even play.
you really think they're not going to play him?
Maybe not. They could save him for Champions League.
So who would you bring in then?
You really think he's going to start over Madison?
I think they
Or
play different
Kulu?
positions.
Well, I guess Kulu's injured.
I think maybe I go Brendan Johnson, because who doesn't love a BJ?
Johnson is way ahead of Kudus.
But that's 7 mil.
Okay, but you're doing 6.5 for somebody who's going to be
So now
a
I've got
squad
5
player.
mil in the bank. So who can I afford with 5?
This might be too much tinkering.
This might be too much tinkering.
I just think Paqueta and Kudos to start the season, those could both not
I'm gonna have
play.
to sleep on it.
Those could both not play, and you're looking to blow up
I'm gonna have to sleep on
your
it.
whole midfield very early.
The question is, I even said this on the first pod. Now we're just kind of getting into, I think, broader strategy. So we've gone through kind of the different tiers of defenders. How many do you plan to start?
3.
You think 3?
I'm going 3. Do you want to take a look at my
We
squad?
can take a look at yours too. So you've got Harry Shovelface Maguire,
Good.
James DeQuickper, Esteve, and Alex Moreno. So I'm assuming you're going to sit Esteve and Moreno.
Esteve and Moreno are on my bench. Yeah.
I mean, is DeQuickper, I'm probably saying that wrong. Is he, like, where did he come from? I don't know anything about him.
They brought him in on a transfer. I forget where.
I don't hate it because all the press has said he should be impactful and he should be nailed and he,
Yeah.
like we said, Brighton or hit or miss. James is an interesting one because 2 seasons ago, 5.5, I would have said that's a steal. I would take him. I remember a couple years ago, it was Reece James and Rudiger, and you needed to have both of them. Otherwise, you were missing that butt.
Rudiger.
Harry Maguire's an interesting one. At 4.5, I'm trying to think of other 4.5 defenders. I want Van de Ven to be an attacking threat because I think he's like 6'4", and he should get in the box similar to Maguire, but
He didn't though.
He didn't. And he's so fat. I remember he had that one
He had that
counter
one
attack.
run. Yeah. Right. He dribbled it all the way
Dribbled
up.
it all the way up, dropped it to Sonny, I think, right?
I think so, and then
Tossed it in.
it didn't go. I don't think it fell.
Whatever we got to do to keep him on the field for
Yeah.
35 games. He can have a game off here or there on a short turnaround.
But I think I could drop James for Porro. I think based on the fixture run, that's probably safer. And then
Probably.
the Maguire, I'm not locked in on him. I could find another 4.5 that I like, but I think the 2-4 choices I have where I'm saving money for my midfield, I think those are probably where I'm gonna end
Yeah.
up with those two.
I'm excited for you because I think you have no funds left over.
None.
2 4.5. So that's the other piece. You've got 2 4.5 mil keepers. I've got a 5 right now, so I could get another half mil there.
Yeah.
Very interesting. We could talk for another hour just about this.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is fun. But I think to just kind of wrap things up here, we're gonna see some big changes to defenders and how they're able to get points this season. I think the game has done a nice job adjusting prices for that new point system. I think it kind of brings some players that normally you would just totally disregard. It brings them back into the fold. I think you're going to see a little bit more parity amongst defenders this season. That being said, it's those premium ones for me. If you can get them in your squad,
Yeah, so let's just squad comparison. You for your price, you have a 6, a 5.5, a 5, a 4.5, and a 4, and I have a 5.5, 2 4.5s, and 2 4s.
you've got more money in your midfield.
Yeah, so I have way less invested in the defender. As is tradition, I'm trying to find just where I could get some coverage and squeak by where my defenders aren't the reason I fall behind every week, so I could save money elsewhere. But that also leaves me in the hole when those premiums do go off. So
Yeah. And the other piece of it too, like we said, you don't want to choose someone that if they blank in the first couple game weeks, their price is going to go down. But the flip side of that, if Guardiola returns in the first week, he's going to go up to 6-1.
true.
Like his selection is so high already. Porro, I don't think is there just yet, but Guardiola have Wolves. Wolves right now, they've got Strand Larson as their only attacker. They just lost Cunha. Wolves have nobody.
True. But Vardiol's price going up, you don't gain anything from that because you're not going to
yeah.
drop him.
Well, yeah, true. That's also true. If Guardiola's my long-term play,
The premiums that you have, you're not realistically going to be dropping.
I could see Porro being dropped if we get to the point where like Spurs are just not returning anything. Because again, Porro's probably not going to give you those CBIT points.
True.
He's really in there for the
He's going to
attack.
get you the bonus points.
Like right now, I don't really have anyone in there for CBIT. I've got Guardiola, Porro, Wan-Bissaka, purely banking on them being up top. Mikolenko.
And that's okay. The CBIT doesn't need to be from defenders. That's why you have
true.
your midfielders.
Yeah, but my midfielders also kind of are weak right now. So,
Well, it's only 2 points. Maybe it's meaningless.
76 points over game week. But,
Only time will tell.
What else you got? Anything else? Any other knowledge you want to drop on defenders? Do you feel like you've got enough now to lock in your defenders?
Not locked in. I think my structure, I'm comfortable with my price points. I think I'll probably move around a bit on who's in there, but I think the way we draft our defenders is pretty on par with what we've done in the past. So
Yeah.
different strategies.
I think one thing to note as well, right? Like sometimes we look at fixtures as kind of the justification for why we choose a defender over another. Don't plan too far out when it comes to defenders because teams start to show their true colors after a few game weeks.
True.
Whether better or worse, just because the team is green right now as an easy fixture, they might overperform. Spurs last year, I think by the end of the campaign, were the greenest of green you could be. Not really reflective of the top 6 team that they should be, but that's FPL for you. So
Yeah.
Right around game week 6 or 7, I think is probably as far out as I personally will plan.
Yeah, I would say mid-season. That's probably about how far I'd look. But to start the year, when the transfer window's still open, it's tough. I kind of look at it as 4 or 5, if that. Get to the international break. Don't be losing money on your players and don't be forced into a transfer.
Well, I'm sure we'll be making lots of changes between now and when the season kicks off. Just a reminder, please do subscribe, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Drop a comment. Who are you selecting? Who do you see as someone who maybe we didn't mention might be undervalued? Who do you think is overvalued? Drop a comment with your biggest surprise in some of these price reveals.
Or if you think we're totally in the wrong, let us know.
Yeah, we love the engagement.
We need to tinker too.
We also have our link to our mini league. Again, that code is IGV5LQ. Special prize for the first 10 folks who join. We'll let you know what that prize is. Maybe.
We don't have the budget for it yet, but
We're working on it.
we'll figure it out. All right. Until next
tinkering.
time, tinker well.
Tinker well.
Draft dreams rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad, the clock won't wait. Captain choice will seal your fate. 2 enthusiasts breaking it down. Fantasy kings, we're taking the crown.